Playing Bigger, Playing Beautiful, the heart-centered way, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality, explores the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship isn't just about profits or growing small to medium-sized businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and spiritual practitioners who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest callings.
I'm your host, Debbie Zita, best-selling author, meditation guide, Australia's leading heart-centered success coach, creator of the 6 Selves model of self-inquiry, and founder of the Heart-Centered Way, dedicated to helping heart-centered humans cultivate more time, energy, money, and wisdom.
Welcome, beautiful Jane. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today with us. Can you please let the audience know who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, thanks, Sherry. I'm so excited to work with you today and to catch up again. So for those who don't know me, my name's Jane Anderson. So my expertise is particularly in B2B selling. So I work with women who have consulting and advisory practices, and they typically have 20 plus years experience and wisdom in it often come out of corporate sort of roles, a variety of things. And they kind of got to a point where they're like, you know what? I think it's my turn now. And they've got a lot to contribute. They've got a lot to share. And so, but they just don't necessarily have the expertise in how do I, go in. I love what I do. I'm happy to deliver, but I'm not really sure how to sell myself. And the ladies that I work with typically are looking to not create massive businesses, and exit strategies and all that sort of thing. The ladies I work with typically are solopreneurs. They have 1 to 2 staff, generally building a practice to 750 to 1.5 million in revenue. And they like to keep it nice and small and agile and tight and just play in their expertise and do that until, for as long as they possibly can.
Amazing. I can't remember who it was that, or how I found you, but what I know is I've been on your list and been watching you for years. And then finally jumped onto one of your workshops, and then it finally reached out about the podcast. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Like Jane said, yes. And I just think you're so wonderful. I don't have a corporate background, and I've been very open and honest with that with my audience. My background is therapy and
Yes.
very, quite woo-woo and quite spiritual, and kind of merging the two worlds together and really trying to find a way to actually make money that I can feel proud of and feel respectable with, and also, have a nice life and live and give to my family, give to the community, but still maintain that level of authenticity and, beautiful energy, beautiful heart. And, for me, I hear, 750 or $1 million per year. And that's where I'm really aspiring to go over the next kind of 5 or so years.
Great.
And I love being around women like you, because there was once a time where I felt just not worthy of that, even the 6 figures, which is where I'm at now consistently. And that's way too low for me kind of these days, but also super proud of being there, because that's a commitment as well to break to that level. And
that's right.
Consistently. But I'd love to find out, let me ask you, I'm going to veer away from our questions as I want to, that I might do, but tell us, what is your favorite part about what you do? Like from that place of real kind of connection and soul, what is your favorite?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because even just touching on what you were saying just then is that I reckon my favorite part is that I've done it tough too. I found it hard too. So it's not like I just woke up yesterday and suddenly had this practice. I started, I got divorced, started life again, lost everything, moved back in with my parents, all that sort of stuff. And but I think what I love most about it is being able to really understand the challenge that people have around, questioning their wisdom, their worth, trying to go, I don't know if I can do this. I think I have something to contribute, but you know what? Just tell me if I don't, because I'll just go and get a job. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But I think because I've had the lived experience and I've had to find my way with it. I haven't been, the fastest person to do it. I've probably taken the longest out of a lot of people, but I'm really quite comfortable with being able to. I think I can meet people where they're at, and because I've been there too. I didn't, go through it at the speed of light and suddenly magically have my practice. I had to find all through the nuances and find my way. So what I love about that is that I think what I found, anyway, I might be wrong, but what I found is that the ladies that tend to come to me for help is that I can empathize. I can find I can really articulate where they are and to say, does this sound like what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah. And they sometimes haven't found the words to describe what's happening for them or to articulate it. And so just being able to say, it's okay, I'm here. I know exactly how that feels. I've been there too. I'm not the rock star that woke up and this all magically happened. So we just do a bit at a time and put it into a sequence. So I'm very sequential, and I create frameworks and structures so that, and the feedback I get is people say, I love that you tell me what to say no to because I just want to do everything and I can't. There's only me. So, I just take things a step at a time. Don't waste your time on that right now. Let's just do this first and then this and then this, and we'll get there.
That's beautiful, Sherry. And I love this idea of it's taken you time as well. I was actually going to call the podcast, instead of playing bigger, playing beautiful, it was going to be the big, beautiful, long game.
Yeah, I love
So I
it.
was seeing people going through, like, here we go quickly, 6 figures, 7 figures. And something for me, I'm a mum, I've been on a big journey, I had a lot of emotional processing, also been through divorce, lost a lot of friends. Like, there's just been a lot that's happened. And yes, I love the money. Yes, I love that lifestyle. Yes, I want to give back. Yes, I have this big, beautiful mission. But also, like, I have my life to do that. So whether it takes me 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years, like, I don't mind. The universe will guide me. So everything is all kind of lined up with health, with family. And yeah, if that's not you, I feel like when you've got, close family, close friends, children, parents to care for, I think it's just also different. There's no wrong or right. If you don't
That's
have
right.
that and you do it really quickly, that's amazing. But I
Yeah,
just think most people in this community, it's a slower pace. Slow and
right.
steady wins the race.
Yeah. And, I just went to the Australian Open on the weekend and I don't know if anyone else watched Maddie Keys. She became pro at 14 and she won her first Grand Slam now at what, 27, 28. you know, that's just phenomenal. And she said that, the challenge she had playing on her mind was just this constant expectation of others around her that she would always she should have a grand slam by now. And, but she said that the thing that changed the game for her was having the support, the right people around her and her sports psychologist helped her to work out, well, just say, don't worry about anybody else. It's your game. It's your pace. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's just about what's right for you. And, I just find that so inspiring because that's exactly, I think I was like, well, that just really gives her permission, not just in sport, but for all of us to go, you know what, you got a lot on your plate. Women are carrying a lot more on their plate with, running households, family, not just children, but extended family, elderly parents. When they're sort of at this age, you're juggling a lot of things and you're pulled in a lot of directions. So it doesn't matter. It's your game, your pace. You do what's right for you. So I
Totally.
love that, Debbie.
Thank you. It's making me think. I recall an interview with Elizabeth Gilbert, who secretly, Universe and anyone else listening or watching, if there's any chance we can get Liz Gilbert on the podcast, please do. I'm actually seeing her next week live in Melbourne, but she was
Fabulous.
talking about releasing Eat, Pray, Love. And then all of the, the follow-up questions around, well, like, does everything else have to be now like a bestseller and a movie with Julia Roberts? And I don't quote me, but I remember her, her answer was, well, I did that and that was beautiful. And now it's just whatever is next is next. And to take the pressure off herself,
Right.
because that was so huge. I mean, how can
Yeah.
you compete with that? You can't. There was a moment in time. I know it changed my life. And that was sort of, oh my gosh, I have to move on and try to find myself and do my whole kind of eat, pray, love journey as well.
Yes.
But yeah, just take that pressure off. And I think it also speaks to mental health. I'm a mental health first
Yeah.
aider. My first full-time job out
Right.
of uni. as a social worker was aged care mental health outreach. So I got to
Right.
see very young, what happens when you're not resting and eating and being mindful, and meditation, if that works for you. It's quite it's hard to spot, unlike a
Mm,
medical disorder. Mental illness is very subtle.
yes.
Unless we know the signs ourselves or know what to look out for in others, we can go down the wrong paths and then draw in the wrong people and go through challenges that perhaps maybe could have been avoided. And that's something I'm very passionate about, is how can we avoid a dark night of the soul if we can? Sometimes we
Yes.
can't, but if we can soften it and have the right people and have the safe space and the right tools, why not do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And women are good at that if they let it happen too. Women are great at congregating and coming together and I think, when you create spaces like that, like what you're doing, it's just so needed, Debbie. So you're doing an awesome job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Jane, I would love to find out, what does playing bigger, playing beautiful mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I personally believe in the power of the individual. I think that we have so much ability in our own capacity, our wisdom that we can share with the world. And so my belief is in terms of playing big and playing beautiful. Big is the biggest version of you, and the most authentic, biggest version of you. So not necessarily, playing big as in big businesses, $100 million businesses, all that sort of stuff. But I think you can live a big life. You can have big freedom. And particularly in this game, I find for most of those I love. And for me, I was like, I really wanted to have the freedom to do what I wanted to do. And I've got to grateful that I have a husband who tolerates me. No, he's great. He's very supportive. But the biggest version of you is, how can you get to a point where your day to day and how you operate day to day, every hour that's in your day is optimizing you. So, and so for that, yeah, you've sometimes got to bring some people around you. I've got a really good team. And I encourage them to play at their biggest, to the best that they're doing, because I need to play at my biggest. And in terms of beautiful, I go, well, to me, that's really about, well, what do you love to do? What lights you up? What's going to make you really feel like, you're inspired by the company you keep, like it's who you hang around, the work that you love to do. I think in this game that I play, which is around, helping people to create their practices, there's a time sometimes as you're going through your practice where you're doing work that you know how to do. It might not be your favorite work, but you know what? You get through it. It pays the bills because it helps you to keep growing. And there'll be a time where you get to shed that. So, I think the beautiful side of it is, if you start to work out, and there's sometimes a gift in that, because you start to work out, well, actually, that's not really what I love most. I can do it. And that was what I was doing. I was going, yep, I can do that. I can do that. But the question was, but what do you love to do? What is it that really lights you up? So when I started my practice, I didn't know that I was going to be helping women who have B2B consulting and advisory practices. I was delivering leadership programs in corporate. And I had women coming to me going, how did you get in there? And how did you charge for that? And so I was sort of delivering the corporate programs, and I go, oh, yeah, you just kind of do this, this, this. Good luck. But yeah, and I was like, hang on, actually, I really like helping them. And over time, I got too busy trying to do both, because I had women who were coming to me, wanted coffee, and then I go, do you want me to coach you? And I
Hmm.
went, hang on, I actually like helping them probably more than I like the corporate stuff, actually. So I had to make a decision, but I didn't know that that was where I was going to end up. It's just that's, I guess, the beauty of, doing what you love to do and how you start to attract the right people. Actually, I love that even. So that's why I do what I do now, because I actually realize, actually, I love this even more than the corporate stuff. This is fun.
Well, it's so beautiful because also the market spoke to you, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, actually, we're hanging out. I love this. And then this conversation comes up quite a bit, because I think you get to a point where you're doing something so great. People want to be around you. They want to be your friend or refer to you or collaborate. And it's like, okay, wait, there's so much going on. Like, how do I make this authentic, but also have the right boundaries to know I can share this one piece of advice because I'm happy to do that. But anything else I'm sharing, actually, that was like $100,000 or more for me to learn that. Do
That's
I want
right.
to package this up and maybe sell it? Or perhaps is this person really struggling and I feel from my heart to give to them? So I don't know if you've got any kind of words of wisdom around that, but like finding out the boundaries and when is it a session versus a friend versus a referral partner?
Oh, that's such a good question, Debbie. Don't you love friend touring? Um,
Yeah.
Um, Look, and it's hard. I totally get that. And when you're a generous person, as you are, and as I always try to be, you're trying to, when you're constantly in this battle of, I'm trying to grow my business, I want to be generous and I want to help, and so it's hard. So the advice that I give for the ladies that I work with is that there's a few things I say. One is to have a landing page on your website that is just for a once off. I want to buy half an hour of your time, or can I? It's called the Pick Your Brains session, and the Pick Your Brains session is, if someone says, "Can we catch up for a coffee? Can I pick your brains?" and you go, "Sure." Here's the Pick Your Brains session, and it says, here's, I'm often asked for help, and people can pick my brains. I'm more than happy to do that, but here's what it costs.
Yes.
And here's where you can pay. And I know that that might feel a little uncomfortable, but after you've done a bit of friend touring and you get a bit sick of it,
Yes.
then you're like, okay, I've got to do something different here. So
Yeah.
that can be useful.
That's a really, really great, that's a great way of navigating it. And I think also that those friends that love and respect you will actually really respect that
Yeah.
and then buy you a coffee or go back to the dynamic of being your friend. And then if they want advice, they'll go and pay for that. And yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense. Uh,
Yes.
Jane, can you walk us through the early stages of your entrepreneurial journey?
Yes. So it's 2010. So so 2008, I'd got divorced, started life all over again, as I said. But when I was married previously, I knew that my ex-husband did not want me to ever have my practice. And I knew that I would always want to have my practice. I knew from a kid that this is what I would do. So when I started, I'd lost everything, moved back in with my parents, just put every cent I could into, first of all was Google AdWords. I was trying to get traffic and all that sort of thing. And, I just was not having any luck. And so what I did was I really kept going in a job. But I started coaching people on Saturdays and Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Saturday mornings was what I started to do. So I started doing that was through contracting. I still had my full-time job. And then just over time, I was like, okay, so yeah, it was working 100-hour weeks. It was just nuts. But that's all right. I was like, it's not forever. I know I can, we'll get there. So I just started, coaching people, and then I took on another contracting role. So I was with two contracting companies plus my own direct clients, and just kind of got to a point where I could trust that I had enough cash flow coming in to leave my job. And then just kept going. So then I took on a third contracting company. So I was doing leadership development in mining, I was doing career counseling, and I was doing productivity training, and then doing a bit of my own leadership development type stuff. So I did that for some time, and then I started to, as I got busier and was really put the effort into marketing my own stuff, I started to speak at conferences and events. I started to write blogs and newsletters and all that sort of thing to try and get my things going. And just over time, I was able to let one contracting gig go, and then another one, and then another one, and then eventually my work totally took over. So it was very accelerator clutch. And the beauty of that was that I met a lot of people. And so as a result, I wasn't, by the time I got to going out on my own 100%, was that I'd met so many people who, said, what else do you do? And, how else can you help us? And so that sort of kicked things along and got me going.
Yeah, amazing. I was talking to someone, actually, I think it was this week, I had a podcast recording. She's a money coach with a corporate background, and we're talking about she has three kids. And when she made this decision to go out on her own, she left 9 months worth of a buffer in her bank account
Right.
just to make sure that she could move through those early stages. And we spoke about, taking the leap of faith, which is something a lot of coaches talk about, and then making sure that you're doing what is right and true for you. And it's always
Yes.
different for everybody, because your income is different, your family situation is
Mm.
different, and also your level to tolerate risk is different.
Yeah,
For some people, that puts them into shock and trauma,
that's
and
right.
they go, "Oh my God, I've quit that, I've let go of that, but what am I doing?" Whereas for me, actually, that was how this kind of kick started 5, 6 years ago. Was I made
Was
a
it?
That's it. I'm not doing that work anymore, and this has to work. But I don't recommend it. It was
That's
scary,
scary.
but it did actually pay off. I sold my first 5K package sort of that day or the next day or sooner, like
Wow.
around that time, and then thought, okay, that's okay. Let's keep going. And it grew from there. So, anyone listening, please do what is right and true for you, regardless of anyone else's strategy or advice. You just have to come back home to yourself and go, I can do this. I can feel that I can do this, or actually, that sounds ridiculous and I'm not doing it that way, right? So it's up
Yeah,
to you.
that's so
Um,
true.
I wanted to ask you, did you get any sort of funding or any support, or was it all through the contracting work that came through for
It
you?
was all through the contracting because I'd lost everything in the divorce, or the little bit of money that I had. I invested in AdWords because I was going, okay, because I was focusing on most of my career counseling at that time. And we knew that at that time that a lot of the traffic that would come for career counseling would come through Google searches. But the problem with that, because people on a Monday type in career counseling, I hate my job, I need to find someone. So,
Yeah.
I was putting a lot of money on Google AdWords on a Monday. But the problem with that is that you're looking for invisible customers. You have no control. It's very difficult to get control it's very AdWords driven. And I'm the type of person who is more proactive than that. And I realized actually that type of coaching and also the type of marketing that comes with that type of coaching just did not work for me. So I was happy to do the contracting and I did career counseling for a really long time. But over a time, I was like, no, I like to write books and I like to get in front of the right audiences and I need to be in a room, not on an AdWords, ad thing all the time. So I need to be around people. So that's when I went, so no, I didn't rely on any funding at all. How I got through it was contracting was how I started to do it and just accelerate a clutch and, just worked as much as I could, took on as many hours as I could, and then just over time start to let go which one. And because the rates are very different too, when you're contracting versus your direct rates, yours are much higher. It just takes time to build up the consistency, and the predictability of that in your own business. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think one of the scariest things for me was I didn't know the patterns or the cycles or the seasons.
Yeah.
I'd kind of go into, oh my gosh, it's quiet. Is it over? Did it finish? What happened? But then when you go through 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you go, it's like, it feels awful because it never feels good, right? But you just
Mm.
go, but I know it's going to be okay because I've been
Yes.
through this before. It's going to be okay. And with that said, how do you handle setbacks or discouragement in your business?
Hmm. Um, not as there's not as many setbacks anymore, which is kind of nice. It's a nice feeling. God, there's been a lot along the way. That's a good question. I always think, a big part of this game and anyone who's in their own business is you just got to have the right people around you. I've got a wonderful group of friends, particularly thought leaders and experts who are very experienced. And so if something comes along that I'm not really sure how to deal with, or I haven't come across it before, I've got really experienced colleagues who I connect with and just say, hey, I need an SOS call. Can I ask you about this? But, thankfully, I think just after what are we now in 14 years of playing this game, I think there's not too much that really goes too wrong anymore that we haven't seen before or know how to get through. COVID
I was
was
just
kind of
thinking,
an
actually,
interesting
yeah,
one. That was a bit different. But I
yeah,
started my practice in the financial oh, I've got fur all over me. Back in 2010,
Yeah.
when the GFC started.
Right.
So, I have people around me like Keith Abraham, who is a wonderful friend, and he's been in this industry for he's 60 now. So, and I've been in masterminds with him and Rowdy McLean. They've been doing this work for 20 plus years. I think Keith's been doing it for nearly 40 years. So they've seen the best and the worst of everything. So what we did when COVID hit is we just stuck together like glue. We had a mastermind. There was myself, Keith, Rowdy, Amanda Stevens, and Andrew Griffiths. So all of us, we'd already had that mastermind. We had that for 7 years in the lead up to COVID. So we were already, like glue, and we always help each other. But when COVID hit, we really stuck together like glue. And what we did was we worked out, okay, well, we have to take the lead here. We have to find a way we just worked with each other and said, how do we set the standard of what people need from us? So it was very collaborative, but I still have that mastermind group today. I've had it for a really long time, and so any setbacks, I can get on a call very quickly, and that just allows you to bounce back really quickly, get perspective, and just the more you can do that, the more you can just keep going and focus on playing above the line and what you've got to do rather than bogged down in too many problems.
Yeah, it's such an interesting conversation. We have a lot of healers and therapists and psychologists in the community, and we talk a lot about trauma, and a lot of that's
Right.
often reflected in who you're around, not always. But
Yeah.
it's just making me think, hey, how blessed and lucky if you do have that support, and then finding a way if you don't, which I guess, fortunately, unfortunately, was part of my journey, having lost so many friends and family, and then just having some really unpleasant experiences that I wish never happened, but also taught me the red flags, and I think I was going to say taught me empathy and compassion, but I actually think I had that already. But it
Yeah.
actually also taught me grit. Because if I look
Right.
back and go, how did you even get through that? I'm like, well, you did, and
Yeah.
you're amazing, and you're so bloody brave and strong. And also my heart stayed open in that process. But it's like
Yes.
making sure that you have the right people. And sometimes it is family and friends. And sometimes if anyone's listening, and this is really for the listener, or if you're watching on YouTube, you
Mm.
might not have it yet. I didn't always. I had 5, 6 years ago when I sold that 5K package. I
Mm.
just met my partner. I had my beautiful son. My
Right.
ex-hubby is lovely, but we weren't married anymore. I
Right.
had a few friends from childhood, but they didn't understand my unusual woo-woo kind of energy work. So I really was kind of on my own.
Yes.
I moved to a different suburb in Melbourne, and I just really connected with my meditation practice and
Right.
prayed a lot. And then my tribe found me. I found my vibe.
Right.
I let go of everything that wasn't serving me, got rid of that trauma experience as best you
Right.
can when you go through it, because it can take some time. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, drew in the right people. And that was around the time when I started to create the self-inquiry framework, which I will ask you about in a moment as well. And one
Yeah.
of the pieces in that is the ecological self, because we have to be around the right people. And you're testament to that. You're running a lucrative business, you've got a beautiful life, you're happy, you're joyful, you're obviously healthy, your success by that definition. And part of that piece is the right people.
Yeah. That's right.
Have to.
Yeah, you can't do this on your own.
No.
It's just, and having people like you, Debbie, as mentors, even if you haven't got, if you're going, well, how do you get the right people around you, or a mastermind? A lot of people do ask me about things like that and how did we do it? But I go, just at least start with a mentor. Start with someone who's trod the path before you, who's got some kind of lived experience. And, because we know that, loneliness is probably the biggest epidemic to hit us, and to have people like you that you can go, what, my clients know that they can send me, we have a limit of 100 emails a day or 100 texts a day, and we
Wow.
laugh
Very
about
good.
that because things change so quickly, and you can't wait for a month, so I've designed my programs deliberately around that, to put the right people around them, and that they can get answers really quickly and I can respond fast, because you can't wait for a month for an answer, or it can keep you up all night. If something's not right or bothering you. So, having people like you, Debbie, particularly, I love that you have that balance of the spirituality and the business side, because for us as women, we are bringing our whole selves. It's not just a business brain and, spiritual brain. It's very holistic. So, having someone like you at the end of an email or a phone call can make all the difference to being able to keep going.
Thank you, Jen. I so appreciate that. And I love what you're sharing, because in the beginning stages of my programs, I'm right there with them. I'm holding their hand.
Right,
Sometimes
great.
I think, oh wow, is it too much? But I've learned over the years, well, no, because they need me then. And then once they've had the sales call, they've made that money, or they've had that conversation, or healed that wound, or whatever it is that we're working on, they're
Yes.
okay. They can go and fly on their own, but I'm still there. And
Yeah.
it always just works out. If I need to I went for a massage before this. A session was cancelled. Speaking of, work-life balance and being an entrepreneur and why I'll never go
Yeah.
back to the workforce. I went, actually, I'm tired. I've recorded podcasts. I've had sessions all day. We also have a mastermind as well. And I'm going to
Right.
go for a massage. And it's like, I do that because I need to. And then it means I fill up my cup so I can be there for those women that are in my system, and be able to support them.
That's right.
I wanted to also speak to, the mastermind and the networking, and no doubt it's because of the nature of the level that I'm playing at in terms of the figures. Not that that's
Mm.
everything, because that's one definition of success, but our
Yes.
mastermind would be very different from yours. But
Yes.
I kind of played this game with the universe where I went, okay, I'll make up my own networking. I'll create my own mastermind. I'll create my own framework. So if anyone's listening again and you've got that kind of excitement where that's you, maybe that is you. You're not a Jane or a Debbie and you're in someone else's mastermind or someone else's kind of sphere. Maybe it's that you need to do your own thing that the market hasn't seen yet, because it's your soul signature or your expression of whatever that is that you've been through in your life experience and professional experience.
Yes. So true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm totally digressing, but my mind has popped back into listening to one of your amazing podcasts. Can you tell us the name of your podcast as well, please?
Yeah, it's just the Jane Anderson show. So, it's because everything's just more so about B2B selling and advisory, and we talk about sales and marketing and value, commerciality, how you show up. So, but I interview mostly the women who I've coached and who have implemented the methodology and the tools and techniques that I've done. And some are on the journey, some have, hit the goals that they've wanted to achieve, and now they're sustaining it. So yeah, it's all their stories. So I've got to do some more content of just me talking. I've probably been leaning a bit too much on, because I just think they're fascinating and so inspiring. But one of my colleagues says, you need to put some more of your content on there. You need to talk. I'm like, yeah, I need to do that.
I love both. We've got guests on obviously on ours, such as you, and then I've just started to do a few of my own things as well. And
Have
you
you?
had
Yeah.
yeah, when I have like a download or a moment of inspiration, I'll just kind of record it, and then whenever it
Yeah,
feels
good.
right to release it, I'll let that out into the podcast world. But you had Seth Godin.
I did.
Yeah,
Yes, that
I
was a
thought
big
that was
fangirl
very, very
moment.
cool. Yeah,
He doesn't do it anymore. I think I was the last one. So many people go, how can I get Seth Godin on my
yeah.
podcast? I go, oh, good luck. He doesn't do any podcasts really anymore. And I've tried. But yeah, it was a real fangirl. I can't tell you how nervous I was. It
Oh,
was
this is an
ridiculous. I
amazing
was
podcast.
absolutely, I was so freaking out. It was just, anyway. But yeah, real thrill. But, it's what it reminds me of is that I was talking to someone today about how we have a fear of asking and a fear of rejection all the time.
Yep.
And it was only that one day I was like, okay, let's just play big, let's dream. If you could interview anybody, and I love that you're putting Elizabeth Gilbert out there in the universe. I
Yep.
go, who would you love to interview? And I went, imagine if I could interview Seth Godin. That would just be unbelievable. He would be my dream guest. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just inquire. Like, who says you can't inquire?
Yeah.
And anyway, he said yes. So I was really fortunate. And, but I think that is one thing that holds a lot of women back. The lady I was talking to this morning, she's a copywriter. She's American who lives here in Australia. And she said, I do notice that in Australia, Australians, particularly Australian women, don't ask for what they want very much. Like they tend to hold back. And there's a fantastic TED talk for those who, or it's a TED talk or TEDx talk. Anyway, I don't know if you've seen it, Debbie. It's by a guy called Jai Zhang, and he's written a book which is all about rejection and overcoming rejection. And his website is called Rejection Therapy. If you want to go on and have a look, it's so awesome. It's my favorite. There's so many great TED Talks, but his is my favorite because it's all about, he spent 100 days straight going out and doing things that he was hoping he would get rejected on because he had this fear of rejection. And it's absolutely hilarious. Like one thing he does is that he turns up, and his book's fabulous too. And he also has a assessment on his website that's about measuring your level of comfort with rejection and how it might be holding you back. It's really clever. And but he talks about, there's one thing, like the beginning of his book, he talks about how he goes, okay, what am I going to do? He's like, I've got 100 days of rejection I've got to get through. And he turns up to this guy's house, just this random guy in Texas, turns up to this guy's house. He's like, okay, what I want to do is I want to see if I can let this guy let me play soccer in his backyard and take a photo. And
Just random
this guy
stuff.
does random stuff. Like there's a video you'll see where he goes on to Krispy Kreme. He goes up to the Krispy Kreme store and he asks the staff at Krispy Kreme, could they create donuts in the shape of Olympic rings, in the colors of Olympic rings?
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
they
think I
don't know
have
if we
seen
can
this
do
guy.
that.
That rings a
Have you
bell.
seen it?
I think I have.
Yep.
I think I have.
Yep.
It's
Yeah. It's just, I just love it because it's all about, you don't ask, you don't get. And, it's the same with Seth, how I got to interview him. All these things are out there that can happen. You just have to ask.
There's just so much. I almost feel like I want to have like a whole nother podcast on rejection because if we haven't like moved through that piece, we can't sell. You can't receive the money. Like when I say receive, I often find that there's people that might bring in a lot of money, but then they've got taxes and they overspend, and then it's like you sit with them and they'll tell someone like me because they haven't told like anyone, but they're like, oh my God, Deb, I'm in massive debt, or this is like, it looks great on the outside, but actually, so it's like really being able to receive it and have that gap. And it might be that 6 figures is all you need because you might have other assets or other things happening. So actually you're okay. Or it might be that you need the 7 figures per more, but you also need work to be able to keep it and invest it back in properties or different things. But yes, you have to deal with your rejection. We have to somehow find a way. And yeah,
That's right. And for us as women, I think, particularly as business owners and the space we work in helping people, is our focus is often so outward, as in generosity, help, giving, that it's just about getting a bit of balance back. You go, it's okay, you're all good, but you can ask as well, for what you need. It's okay to balance it. You don't have to be pouring out 100% of the time.
Yeah, and then if we add to that female and then also anything in like a spiritual community or any kind of like religious upbringing, which is, women are often seen in a certain light, shall we say. Again, I'm choosing my words carefully, but we're for this place, although we're, as in the Heart Centered Way in this podcast, it's predominantly for women. But I'm a mum to a son, a beautiful 16-year-old son, and I want the boys to come through this time and be happy and proud and loving and open-hearted and feel strong as well. And I think in some ways we've kind of almost lost our way. Like we need to, yes, for women's empowerment, but women's empowerment also means if the boys need help, we need more men's groups. We need to understand why are boys or men behaving this way. And yes, there will be the odd that are really like, just let's back away. But I think majority of people, just my own humble opinion, are doing things because they don't know how to do it better. And they're also stuck in trauma and grief themselves. So totally digressing.
I agree.
But the tall poppy syndrome, I think, did you and Seth talk about that on your podcast, or am I just...
Yeah, you've done your homework. We did.
Because
I didn't know whether he would be familiar with it, but he was. And, so he's been here a couple of times. I've seen him speak here a couple of times, and he has been asked that question. Yeah.
But I think
Excuse
his
me, I've got
answer again,
Winston
if
waking
I'm
up.
recording correctly, if I'm recalling correctly, because I watched it, I think the day that I saw you I attended one of your workshops and I listened
Oh,
to
yeah,
the
yeah,
podcast then. But I think he was saying from his experience, it's not Australia, it's or America, it's kind of worldwide. Um,
yes,
Personally, though, I do have clients and colleagues in the States and a couple in Canada. I honestly
right.
feel that it is actually more so in Australia. I really feel it here.
I agree.
I really,
Yeah,
really do. Because when I'm
definitely.
speaking to my colleagues in the States, I had two conversations this morning. I don't know, it just
Right.
feels like I can share what I've earned, who I've met, what I'm working on. I just feel freer. Whereas in Australia, I feel
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe you'll judge me, or maybe it's not good enough. I just have this voice in the back of my mind. I don't know. But you're nodding, so you have that too, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's kind of easy for him to say that in some ways because he's not Australian. And maybe
Yeah,
Lay's got
female.
more of a bias, and maybe we
Yeah,
have more of a bias too.
that's true.
But I agree with you. I agree with you. I think, I always find, even speaking in America compared to here, American audiences are appreciative of a speaker. Like you get to the end of a keynote, they all stand, you get standing ovations and American audiences want you to win. In Australia, if you speak at a conference, they're like, yeah, come on, dance,
Who's next?
dance,
Or
monkey girl.
yeah,
Come on.
wow. And speak about like
So,
rejection, right? Like that's a big thing you're going to have quite a tough skin to deal with that, Jane. Like that's big. I
yeah, Australian audiences, it's really hard to impress them, and it would be very difficult to get a standing ovation. But the US are very forthcoming, very willing, and they're like, yeah, they laugh at all your jokes, and they're enthusiastic. Whereas Australians, man, they are tough,
like,
and I
is
feel
this
sorry for
microphone on? Are you
Americans.
guys listening to me? Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually I feel like when American speakers come to Australia, I feel like I want to send them, the briefing just to say, just so you know, Australians
Or have like a therapy
are
session
tough.
afterwards to
Oh,
unpack it.
totally. I feel like I want to brief them. I'm like, has anyone told you this? Don't take it personally.
And I looked towards that path of, keynote speaking or something like that. And I think maybe when I'm a little bit older and yeah, but I think I'm too sensitive. I think because I do need that, like, yeah, go girl. And I'm okay with that for now. And I think anyone listening, not that I, I do have some weight here, but we should change that tall poppy thing because I think it's about time in 25 in Australia that women, it's like, you really are allowed to shine and share what you're doing and let's just help each other.
Oh,
Like, there's no need to
yeah.
yeah.
And also, the thing I've been working with a lot of my clients, I'm sorry, Winston is just comfortable. Um, that you also have permission to create your own events and experiences where people appreciate you.
Yes.
So, because sometimes particularly the ladies I work with and are experts in their space, they say the same thing. They go, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could speak at those big audiences. And I go, you know what? You don't even have to.
Yeah.
Is you can just simply put on an experience, even at a restaurant. You can hire a private dining room for 6 people. Like
Yep.
it doesn't even have to, but why not so that's why I actually don't speak anymore because I go, you know what? I actually really enjoy working with and speaking with audiences who really need my help where I can share this stuff. So I actually do my own events now. So we
Oh,
do
so interesting.
workshops, the ones
Yeah.
you've attended.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I go,
Yeah.
you know what? If you feel safer, and it's not that I
Yeah.
felt safer, but I was like, you know what? I always think of speaking at conferences is kind of like one night stands. Like you go
Right.
in, deliver, and you're gone.
Right.
But I love the intimacy of
Yes.
continuing connection and relationships and conversations. And
Yeah.
so, creating your own events is what I encourage a lot of women to do who are in their own businesses because I go, don't worry about the conferences. I've been there, done all
Yeah.
that.
It
And I
actually
actually,
validates
you feel
me so
better.
much. Oh, sorry to cut you off. It validates me so
No,
much.
you're right.
Well, that's what I did. I went, oh, well, I don't feel valued here. I'll do my own networking. I'll do my own masterminding. And the women that love and see me, because there was trauma, especially when there's trauma, it's almost like you need extra
Yeah,
validation, right? And that's
yeah,
okay, ladies. If you need that, we'll give that to you. Like, that's fine. Take it. And then when you're ready, you won't need it as much and you can be the validator for someone else. But because I really did, like, that door never opened for me. And I thought, like, oh, there's something wrong with me and I'm not a good speaker and I can't speak. And it's like, nope, it wasn't the right direction for me, because that's kind of, it just felt heavy. It felt like a heavy
It
energy.
is heavy.
And I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you a question, but do you think, is it male dominated? Is that part of what it is? And I don't think the men are doing it
Part of
consciously,
it.
but is that what it is?
There's a few things going on in the space that have changed. So yes, the short answer is it's very male dominated.
Right.
Absolutely. Um, when you work with bureaus like meeting planners, conference organizers, and the bureaus will say, we want audiences that want more women. They say they want all these things, or they want they want a female futurist. There's the topic of the year, and then they want the female version of that. So we want a female AI speaker, or we want. So you're not only dealing with where they say, oh, we want more women on stage and we want to book more women. But I go, yeah, but it's not just that. You're wanting someone who is female, plus that is the topic of the year. At the moment, topic of the year is AI.
Yes.
So you go, actually, so if you're female AI and you are neurodiverse, you'll be very busy at the moment.
You're ticking all
like
of those.
you've got to tick too many criteria.
Yeah.
The other thing that's happening too in this game is that there's more and more people who are coming out who are discovering their wisdom and their expertise and going, oh, actually, I think I'd like to do that. I'd like to speak. I'd like to maybe write a book. I'm happy to be on conferences. And so the bureaus who are booking agents, they are getting, typically anywhere between 2 to 6 people applying to the bureaus to speak every day. So there's this massive wave and inundation that meeting planners, conference organizers are getting because of this new wave of expertise and people stepping into this space. So that's why I say to people, you know what? It's actually, it's become extremely competitive, and not that you can't do it, but I go, why not just create your own event? You can put your own event on and still do just as well. You don't have to be a speaker. And yes, like there's fee. The other thing that's happening is because speaker fees have not moved in 10 years. If anything, they've come down a little bit. So the fee that you earn. The other thing that's also happening, last year there were about 40% less conferences than there were before COVID. So we may see conferences come back a little bit more this year. So you've got the competition, more people who are interested in speaking and at events. What that has also created now for meeting planners and conference organizers is they are now charging speakers to speak at their events.
Yeah.
So a totally different game now. I go, you don't need to worry about that. Just go create your own, start small, and go speak to your tribe. And guess what? Off the back of that event, you can work with those people for longer.
And I think at the end of the day, unless you just love the experience of connecting, we're doing it from a business perspective to increase profit. We're doing it to get in front of the right people, to refine our message, to build our confidence, to eventually convert. So it's choosing the right platforms and knowing your worth and your messaging, so that it is building the business, which yes, taken me a very long time to figure that one out.
Yeah. There's a whole new world with
I was going to say, it's a whole new world out there. Yeah.
Not that it's impossible, can be done. But there's lots of ways you can make it work.
And I think it's part of it for me was just navigating the lay of the land. Like, wait, this year is different. And that's part of why I love staying plugged in with you, because you give us so much value on the workshops and in your newsletters around like what's happening in industries, which is things that I otherwise probably wouldn't know. So I find that actually so generous of you, whether it's titles of speaking topics and things that you offer. That's just amazing, because I wouldn't know otherwise, even though I'm not speaking. But that then feeds into the conversations that people have.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Top down. So they hear what the speakers are saying, they see them as the experts. And then we all start speaking on our podcasts or our little circles and book clubs and all the things about that. So if I know that helps me as well, so it's amazing.
Yeah, you feel the impact of a lot of those things, because there'll be problems that your clients will be talking about and it's just the context may be different, but you'll see it show up in a different way. Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. Jane, I would love to share my screen and show you.
Yes,
I think we've spoken about this before and you've seen it, but the Six Selves framework. So, can you see that there on your screen?
yes, yep,
Amazing. So that's the overview. What I can also do is scroll down, and there is one which is the
yes,
full creative self as well. So just have a little read through.
yes.
Let me know what's your favorite and why.
Yeah, I had two in here, Debbie. And so the two that I really liked that really resonated, I think, were the legacy self and the valued self. And they're probably no surprise to you. But I really loved what you had to say about, finding one is, well, the valued self is all about wisdom, expertise, and how you can. I love what you said about boundaries as well, but valuing yourself, valuing your expertise, your knowledge. And so for a lot of people, they'll come to me, their struggle is pricing
Mm.
and working out how do I price things, not just now, but as you go along, or they'll have different advice that they've heard about, oh, I heard this person charges this much, and am I, worth that? And so find, which all comes from positioning as well. So the valued self really resonated for me, Debbie, and I love this model that you've created. It's super clever. And I think it really resonates. And I love the question here, what positive changes might occur if I place more energy on the individuals who value me the most? It's really easy in our expert wisdom, thought leader world to be trying to convince people and be on a crusade to convert them to our way of thinking, but you've got to go, well, actually, who really values me? Who is it that needs my help? Let's go find them rather than try and force it. And the other one is obviously the legacy self, which I really love, because I think the people who value you, it's then you can then step into leadership and say, well, how can I create a community and evolve it into, my capturing my expertise, the body of work, but the legacy and the ripple effect of how you can help people, but not just for that day, but there's an opportunity. I have a mindset around customer for life. So, and you might not have them for life, but theoretically, what I'm saying is you can work with people and help them longer than you might think. And if you are there showing up and you're committed to them, people want people to care. And as a leader, if you can create a community and a tribe around your expertise and knowledge and wisdom, then this is about your life's work and a labor of love that you create. So I think those two together really resonated for me.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you, thank you. And I just feel grateful. I feel grateful that you like it. I really respect you, Jane, and I really take what you say on board. And I love the framework. It came honestly from prayer and meditation and just reflection on so many
Right,
modalities that I've learned. And I first used it on me. I mentioned the trauma that I went through, and then I
right,
tried this on myself, going, I've got to work through spiritual and letting go, and then the decision making with the emotion. I moved through all of it, and then realized I met my
right,
future partner. I've got new friends. I've got a new tribe of people. The business was moving. Let's keep testing it out. And then the acronym for selves came sort of 2 or 3 years later when I was talking to a friend in sales and marketing, and she's like, you've got to come up with something that's clean. And I'm like, well, it took me like 5 years to figure out the different topics. What do you mean? And then I literally was standing in my kitchen and I was like praying, asking the universe for guidance, like, what's a word for selves? And then I giggled and cried all at the same time, and like every cell in my body like lit up, and I realized it's selves. It's actually selves. So yeah,
yep,
amazing. I have one very last lucky question for you before we finish up.
yep.
And that is, what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
Oh, uh, well, the advice I give them is one, get clear on your message, and you've done the work on that. um, and clear on your message and that really comes back to how you resonate most with the world, not just words and language, but it's about your energy and essence and how you show up. So first one is get your message. The second one is then you got to get yourself out there. You can't sell a secret. People aren't going to magically just start to turn up. You've got to have the courage to go out and, put yourself out there and share your expertise and knowledge and find people who resonate with that. Because people often say to me, it's a case of when the teacher is ready, the student appears. And I go, yes. They often are waiting for the student to appear first before the teacher comes along. So it's the other way around. Teacher first, and then the students will appear. And then the third thing is, and we've talked about that, is get the right people around you. You don't have to do this by yourself. Go and look out for people like Debbie in your community. You'll progress so much faster, and you'll retain your confidence, and it'll just grow, and you'll have a much bigger impact in your business.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jane. Is there anything else that you want to share with us
Thank you.
before we finish up?
Oh, it's great for those if they're following along, and feel free to jump on the website. I've got, if this is the type of work you want to do or you're interested, we've got assessments and quizzes that you can work out, for growing your practice, or if you can sell your sort of programs to corporate, and or drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you if they listen to the podcast and you found it helpful. I'm really grateful to be part of your community today, Debbie.
Thank you, Jen. And we'll have all those links in the show notes as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you resonate with what we're about and you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening to us, please leave a review and share the episode with someone who you believe could benefit from what has been discussed. Thank you so much for your support. See you soon. The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.